and get started. So, as I said, when you are all coming in, welcome. We're really excited to have you all here. This is the very first time that we're trying something like this. And it really came about from discussions with leaders from all levels of JCI, whether that be local leaders, state, national, and even sometimes international. And one of the needs that was expressed was a candidate school. We talk about leadership development as an organization, and we used to have like ways that we prepared our leaders to take that next step and take a role. But we all know as the organization changes, some of those preparations also change. And we felt that it was really necessary to kind of be more intentional, which JCI Michigan will make fun of me because that's like my favorite word, is be more intentional about the type of preparation that we do. We talk about what it means to be a leader, and we talk about what it means to be a member, but we've never really talked about what it means to be a candidate, right? We encourage you to step up and then we kind of leave you to the wolves. And so this is our attempt to prepare our members and leaders at all different levels of the JCI organization, especially within JCI USA, to take that next step, feeling more prepared on what the process looks like. So this is a 6-session series. It takes place every 2 weeks on Monday at 8 p.m. This is the very first one where we're going to talk about the foundations, but each week has a very different focus. And it's meant to, whether you're stepping into a leadership role next year or in future years, it's to make you feel more confident about what that means, what to expect, and how to better prepare to put you in a better place. Whether you win or lose, you're still going to be better off knowing what you're walking into. Does that make sense? Sort of what the intent of this is. So this is for anyone who is interested in any type of role. This will be general. It's more of a facilitation. It's for the benefit of you. We have some topics and we're going to kind of go through that's definitely structured, but you'll find that there are activities. There's going to be things that you're asked to think about. We're going to talk about all different levels of leadership next week with bylaws. We're going to talk about JCI USA. We're going to talk about the state level, and we can even talk about JCI International. We're going to talk about some of that today as well, right? That being said, it's for your benefit. If you have questions, interrupt, make it a discussion. When you leave this session here, I hope that the conversation continues. Feel free to ask questions over even the next 2 weeks before the next session. And after that, this is a starting point. It's never an ending point because we know leadership's a journey. Okay. So without further ado, I'm also going to introduce our special guests. We will have different guests coming in, different voices to help you prepare. And I think you are all familiar with National President Josh. So thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. When Michelle and State President Jess had messaged me about this, I was super excited because this was something that I went through a similar thing like this with past National President Fay probably 5 or 6 years ago over in Pennsylvania. They had spun one up. So I was super excited to see Michigan doing this as well because it was something that I felt in my heart helped me early on in my JCI career. So excited to see it happen again. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. How we're going to get started, because I think the other benefit of this whole idea and working together is that chances are in your JCI career, with your 1 year to lead, you will be working with different teams. And every one of you is on this call because you are kind of self-identifying that perhaps you want to be on a leadership team sometime in the future. So I think it's important that we introduce ourselves and you get to know the other people within this call, because chances are at some point you're going to be working with these people. And so with that, and now doing Canva, I'm going to go ahead and do some introductions. So I'd like you to share your name, where you're from, what's your current role, And what's maybe perhaps a future role that you're considering? This does not mean that you are running for it next year. It doesn't mean you're even running for it the year after, but it helps us get an idea of where your interest lies so that we can focus the discussions on that. Okay. So to get started, I'm going to put him on the hot seat. National President Josh, do you want to do your introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Josh Overland. I am from Wilmington, Delaware. My current role is the national president of JCI USA, and a future role that I am considering is perhaps an appointment on an international JCI committee next year.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. And I'm just going to go down the chat list here because it just makes my life a little bit easier. So, uh, State President Jess, you didn't know I was going to call on you.
That's okay. I thought I was facilitating, but I can do both. Jessica Anderson from Michigan, as you said, current role is state president for 2026. A future role that I am considering is national vice president for USA.
Awesome. Thank you. Kaylee?
Kaylee Gratz from Allegan and South Kent in Michigan. And my current role is National Vice President for JCI USA and IPP for Michigan. And a future role I'm considering would be like LDD or MDD for JCI USA.
Awesome. Amanda?
I'm Amanda Wingler. I'm from JCI Ludington, JCI Michigan. My current role is chairman of the board for my local chapter and secretary. And then for state, I'm communication technology director. Future roles, I'm all over the place. Potentially something, again, on the state board and just kind of furthering into that. I'm looking at a lot of different options. So
Awesome. Arby, I did see your chat. Are you able to do an introduction or do you just want to type it out maybe? Whatever's more convenient for you.
Don't worry, my order is done. State President RV from New York, also currently serving as the Individual Development VP for the chapter. Would love to be an NVP down the line, but I'm really focused on being one of the 35 national trainers for you.
Awesome. Thanks, sir. Next up, let's do Ashley.
Hello, Ashley Devers from Ludington, Michigan. My current state role is District 8 Director, Ludington. Local role would be Vice President Management. In my future role, looking to run for local president and just keep going up with the state and maybe dabble in with the USA a little bit, some committees or something as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. Brandon, you're up. I don't know if you can hear. There you go.
Nope, I got it. I got this. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, walking my dog.
You're good.
My name is Brandon Diller. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Um, I am currently the treasurer, soon to be outgoing treasurer, and for the local chapter, and then I'm the director of training. I have some interest in further going up with the state and eventually pathing towards the international level, as that's a big love of mine of this organization.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Brenna?
Hello. Brenna LaForge, current chapter president for JCI Kalamazoo, Michigan. Lots of other little things here and there. I, I'm fairly open to my pathway in the future. I've only got about 5 years left in the organization, so I'm just kind of like, let's just go up and out and we'll see where it takes me.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenna. Next up, Brielle.
Hello, Brielle, current national director for Pennsylvania. Future roles I am interested in is possibly national vice president before I age out.
Awesome. Thank you. Cassie, I know yours is going to be a little different, but welcome.
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Cassie Breathen. I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. I don't have a future role in mind because I'm actually JCI USA staff. I'm a program coordinator. I started with the organization in January. So I'm just joining more so for my own knowledge of the organization and to learn more about what being a candidate is like and what elections are like with JCI USA.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Cassie. Celeste, you're up.
Hi everyone, Celeste Ross, local president for the Grand Rapids Junior Chamber here in Michigan, also serving as the JCI Michigan DEI director this year. Future role I'm considering, I'm all over the place and I don't really know where I could fit yet. I have a lot of passion in different spaces, so just excited to see what avenue I could take and learn all I can.
Awesome. Welcome, Celeste. And Chris, I know you're driving and I don't know if you can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So my name is Chris Lineberry. I'm the immediate past president of Spencer, North Carolina, and I'm current membership VP of North Carolina. And my future goals, I'm looking to be state president in the next year or two, 2027 or 2028. And I'm going to work. Does that work?
Yep, that works great. Thanks, Chris. With that, I'll turn it over to Courtney.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi everyone, Courtney McKay. I am from the Western Maryland JCs, where I serve as state representative as well as current state president for Maryland, kind of reestablishing our state board since we didn't have one for a little bit. So short term, as far as I'm aware, we don't have anyone running in the pipeline for state president next year. So I will probably reprise my role, looking ahead, potentially national roles, as well as I have some personal projects I'd like to kind of partner with the JCs and the Appalachian Regional Commission to do some work in Appalachia and leadership development. So kind of unknown, but I, like Celeste, I have a lot of different passions and interests. So I'm just open to learning more and exploring the possibilities and hanging out with you all the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. DeMarcus, you are up, sir.
DeMarcus from JCI Greater Muskegon and JCI Michigan. I'm the current membership vice president of my local chapter, membership director for the state board, and on a whole bunch of committees. And for future roles I'm looking at, definitely got my eye on membership VP for the state and hopefully something on the membership track for national.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Jake, I'm gonna put you on the spot too. You're here.
Jake Anderson, JCI Lansing, JCI Michigan. I am past, present, and future productions assistant at the state level.
Forever productions assistant, Jake. Next up is Kelly. Kelly, are you able to unmute? Maybe not. If you're able to, just go ahead and signal later. But if not, we'll move on to Christy.
Hi, my name is Christy Cullinan. I am from JCI Miles City in Montana. I'm currently serving as the local chapter president and as community impact vice president for JCI Montana. And as far as future roles, I don't necessarily have anything specific in mind. Still learning a lot about the national level and moving up through kind of the state as well. So really just here to get a broad interview and learn more. Thank you.
Welcome, Christy. Madison, you're up.
Hi, my name is Madison Talsma. I am JC Livonia in the state of Michigan, and I'm on the DEI committee. for Celeste, so Snap. Um, just joined JC's actually in February, so still just kind of like checking things out, learning a lot. So starting out with a committee for what I have obviously a passion for DEI. And then yeah, very, very similar to what's kind of been stated, kind of looking to the future to see where my passion projects for like facilitating and leadership growth of others kind of intersects with JCI and seeing kind of like how not only can I help JCI, but how can JCI help me kind of like fill my cup? So nothing really looking into the future, but open to opportunities and looking to meet more people.
Awesome. Thanks, Madison. McKenna, I saw that you were driving. I don't know if you're able to unmute. Maybe not. Okay. If you get to where you're going and want to, we can stop and you can reintroduce yourself there. Otherwise, I will switch over to Morgan.
Hi, I am Morgan Ogden. I am I'm from North Carolina by way of Missouri now. I live in Missouri, still a North Carolina JC, interestingly enough. I am currently JCI USA's Leadership Development Director, which is a mouthful of a title to say that I oversee our trainings task force and I work with our state presidents too, which is, I think, the most fun role there is. Future roles, we'll see. Maybe President of the United States. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just want to keep exploring and learning more and seeing other folks come up throughout JCI USA and even beyond. So,
Awesome. Welcome, Morgan. And last but not least, Ryan.
Hello, I'm Ryan Watkins from the Great Lakes Bay JCs in Michigan. I'm Secretary for the Great Lakes Bay JCs and Programming Director for JCI Michigan. And future roles, I would consider both stuff at the state and the local level, specifically membership VP.
Awesome. Welcome, Ryan. So with that, we've gone through everybody. I think you all know me. My name's Michelle McGran. I am from the Redford JCs in JCI, Michigan. My current role is, oh my gosh, is I am primary advisor for JCI Michigan. I'm on the training task force for JCI USA, and I am a global training mentor for JCI. And my future role I am considering is none. I will be a mentor. It's a running joke. I age out in 2 weeks. So actually, I age out the day of our next session. And so I probably won't be on it facilitating, but I'm setting you up to be in wonderful hands. I'm being selfish on my 40th birthday and not taking a JCI Michigan JCI meeting for the first time in 16 years. So welcome, everyone. I am glad that you are all here. Check the chat, make sure. Okay, Senate President, no. With that, we are going to jump right into it, and I am going to actually turn it over to National President Josh to talk a little bit about the foundations of JCI and JCI USA. We're going to talk a little bit about the mission and structure. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I think it was really important that when you become a candidate or you're considering to become a candidate for any role within this organization, you still stay grounded within the mission, which is to provide leadership development opportunities that empower young people to create positive change. I know some of y'all are driving and don't want to read the screen, so I wanted to say it out loud, just in case you didn't know it by heart. And really, that is at the core of what we should be doing or driving to, with goals in mind to run for whatever office you might be running for. And then likewise with the JCI vision is to be the foremost global network of young leaders. So these are two statements that really should be at the heart of why you're running, because you want to drive forward both these statements, whether it's at the local level, the national level, the international level of our organization. So let's flip next to the different types of roles. So I think everyone kind of understands that there are many different layers to JCI. I think the importance of this graphic here really, if I could flip it, I would. Like what should be at the top and honestly the biggest would be the local organization. This is the part of the organization that has the most impact, and quite frankly does the most work for the organization. Sure, like at the national level, there's a lot of meetings and things like that, but a lot of the like really impactful stuff is what happens at the local organization. Then as you go up there, from there at a chapter level, you have a variety of positions that are mimicked on the state level as well, right? So, president, secretary, treasurer, depending on your state, region directors, other types of directors that every state may or may not have. And a lot of states, check your bylaws if you don't know them, your state may have a different set of directors every year, depending upon the president and what types of roles or directors they decide to spin up as well. So check that out for sure. And then when you go up from there, you have JCI USA. Um, so there's a variety of roles there, and basically everything kind of like rolls up. And then at the international level, I mean, we could we could talk probably all night about all the different types of roles at the international level. But for the purposes of this slide, it's important to know that there is an international organization, one that perhaps makes sense to stick kind of in between that as well, is that there is the JCI America, which is our region that we fall into, which is the United States, Canada, Mexico, and then Central America and South America. One key cultural difference, just to get out of the way now, is that even though we call that the Americas, like growing up in American education system, in the Central America and Southern America and education system, they consider South America and North America all as one continent. So that's why it's JCI America, not JCI Americas. So there is executive vice president that oversees the area, and there are four international vice presidents that oversee that as well. And then there's also what's written here. You can see is the American Development Council. Also, people shorten everything in JCI. You all know this. They affectionately call it the ADC as well. So there's a whole board that kind of oversees America. They help set a budget. They set programming for the America area, trainings, stuff like that. So kind of like similar to a state organization. And one important thing to know about that, of why they have that board, is because a lot of nations in um, Central America and South America their countries are not even as large as many chapters are in the United States. So for instance, an interesting statistic, if you take the United States out of the America area, the average membership of every nation is 235.
Just for JCI Michigan people here, JCI Denmark is smaller than JCI Michigan.
Yeah. So just something to understand why they do have that American Development Council that sits within the JCI structure as well. But needless to say, at all the different levels of the organization, you have many, many different roles. So let's proceed forward. So here's where we have kind of the hierarchy here. So at the very top is the world president. This is the person that kind of oversees everything going on this year. There's one world president. Needless to say, there's not two world presidents, unfortunately. So this year it's Ali Castillo is our world president this year. She hails from Bolivia. And then you have executive vice president. So there is one executive vice president every year for each area. And then you have four international vice presidents. Well, I think there might be more in other areas. Michelle, you keep me correct on this one. Are there more in other areas? I'm more familiar with America.
There's usually four. It depends on the number of nations. I think it's much like ours, it's population based, but traditionally there's four and then one EVP for each area. So a team of five.
Great. So you have four IVPs per area, and then you have a treasurer for JCI, a general legal counsel, and then a chief executive assistant to the president, or affectionately CEA TTP. And then that's the international level. Then you would have your national presidents, which comprise a board of directors for each area. So this year, as a national president, I sit on the board of directors for JCI America in much the same way that all of the state presidents sit on the board of directors for JCI USA. And then you also have a number of committees that need chairs as well as members. Hint, hint, wink, wink. We're getting a list of open committees. So if you're on this call and you're thinking about an international committee membership, or all the chairs are filled, sorry, people. But if you're thinking about a committee assignment, perhaps, and you would like to serve for the remainder of the year to kind of see what it's about, we'll get a list out to you shortly here. And then you do have the ADC council. In the ADC, it's the council director, and then you have commissioners. So there's one chair in America, or director, and then you've got four other commissioners that serve on the ADC. So that's kind of at a JCI level, the different opportunities that exist. Any questions? I'm going to pause there because that was a mouthful. Cool.
Yeah, and it's important, as we're talking about this is a leadership journey. While we asked you what your future role you're thinking about, that may be the first year, second year, whatever. But for many of you, these are options as well. And so you don't know what you don't know. And so talking about all the different roles and opportunities may spark inspiration that this is something that you may want to move towards in the future. And this next leadership role may just be your first step.
And important to say, because it felt weird for me on the international level too, your general legal counsel internationally does not need to be an attorney. And then this likewise with the treasurer. You don't need to be a CPA, a licensed finance expert, anything like that. Those are wild statements to me, but they have many, many staff members on JCI that kind of help lead that. It's more of the leadership piece behind it, helping to set the budget as treasurer, helping to oversee the legal issues that do come.
Well, yeah, the GLC acts as like our parliamentarian. So it's about bylaws at that point and less about like there's a whole team of lawyers for JCI. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But things about how to do like bylaw stuff that falls under GLC. And much like our LDD looks after the state presidents and some of the chief executive assistant of the president oversees all committee chairs. So that's kind of their role instead of looking over all the national presidents, because there are about 20 different committees for JCI, and each one of those committees, the chair oversees a committee, generally 8 people, 2 from each area. So that's hundreds of members. And so that's how that role functions. Those are all appointees. IVP and EVP and world president are elected roles. So jump over to USA.
So this one, so there's the national president at the very top of the organization, and then there is the deputy national president, which is an elected role. The national president is also an elected role as well. Typically for the past history, as long as we've had a deputy national president, and we've had, I believe, 8 of them. There was only been one instance where that deputy national president did not end up running for national president, but it is that way in JCI USA's bylaws currently, because you get into a role, you kind of get to experience and see firsthand what it's like to be a president. And before you're committing to being a national president, where there's a lot of responsibility to go to international meetings, to run all of the national meetings, to do a slew of state visits, it's a big commitment, but you kind of get a slice of that as DNP, and you can make that decision whether or not you ultimately want to run for national president. So then there's only one national president and one deputy national president. For national vice president, we have 6 of them currently. So there's 6 positions that open up every year to run for national vice president. As we were kind of talking about earlier, your national vice presidents in the USA, they oversee a handful of states. So it's a mix of states. It's not like one national vice president gets all of the very large states or all of the very small states. We try to distribute it evenly amongst each NVP. And then they also get assigned areas of programming to work on for USA programs. Next up is the treasurer. So this is the person that oversees kind of adherence to our budget, making sure that we're sticking to the budget. If any allocations or reallocations or things need to take place during the year, that person is in charge of that. Legal counsel. This is, at least for USA, a requirement to be a licensed attorney to serve as your legal counsel for JCI USA. Not so much because we have them going to court for us all the time. It's more so because we don't have lawyers on staff to kind of advise when those types of legal situations do come up. In many instances in the past where legal action has been taken, it's because there was a recommendation by the legal counsel to do so, and not necessarily because that legal counsel is the one that is the representation in court. In fact, in many instances, because JCI USA is headquartered in Missouri, our legal counsel is not even barred in Missouri, so they can't even help us in a court of law. So those are kind of the top positions. The treasurer and the legal counsel are not elected positions; they are appointed positions confirmed by the board of directors, which is comprised of the state presidents. Next is the chief of staff. So this is the person that kind of oversees all of the executive committee members that are helping with coordination of event planning and all of the different the pieces of business that need to get attended to throughout the year. That's an appointed role as well. The leadership development director, current sitting LDD Morgan, kind of went over that in her overview, so I get to skip over that part. Thank you, Morgan. And then membership development director. There can be one or there can be up to two. Depending on the year and the type of work that's required or not required, and whoever is the national president may determine to select one or two. This is very similar to a lot of membership VPs at like a local level, only from a national perspective, right? So they're the ones that are supposed to be working with all of the state membership directors or the membership region directors or what have you, depending on the state structures that exist out there. Um, and then that's also an appointed role or appointed roles if there's two. Next down would be your state president. So this is obviously an elected position within every state. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory, but you oversee the entire state. You have your board of directors as well that you have and whatnot. And then at the USA level, there are also program managers. So these are the people that oversee all of our different programs that are out there. Civic leadership certification, passport to civic leadership, 10 outstanding young Americans, just to name a few. And then on each one of those programs, there are a handful of committee members. Some of the committees have restrictions and limitations per the bylaws that there can only be a certain amount of committee members, and then some of them do not have any restriction at all. For example, the 10 Outstanding Young Americans Committee does not have any restriction on the number of members. However, the Training Task Force Committee does have a restriction on how many members can be on that committee, and it has pre-designated people that will be on that committee. For example, the immediate past president for JCI USA is automatically on the training task force, and the leadership development director is automatically the chair of that committee. So that's kind of an overview of all of the different roles and opportunities within JCI USA. Michelle, anything you want to mention that I may have missed?
I don't think so here. The only thing, like I said, was kind of on that first slide. If you saw the one with the triangle, right? Really the triangle is kind of like this. And so notice that there are kind of replicated roles, or they kind of mirror each other here. But the best way to think about it is JCI can sets like the bare minimum of rules and restrictions. And every layer after that can set rules and restrictions that are more restrictive, but they can't be less, right? So JCI sets what's a member, they set what the age limits, the Constitution, that type of stuff. But you have self-determination as a chapter, as a nation, and that's why so many of these boards have so many positions and the kind of power that each role and responsibility has, right? And so you can kind of see that thread that's running through, but you can also see a pathway, right? Like if you're super interested in membership, I know DeMarcus mentioned that and some other people here, you can see how that membership area, the roles and responsibilities thread through all the way even into like the development council, which is really focused on growth and membership, right? So there is a pathway for anyone, depending on what your interest is, and you can bounce and explore. And that's really where that sort of local and state level gives you that freedom to do so. And then you can chart a pathway to a higher level.
And to that end, so there are some requirements to not to skip back and around, but so for example, to run for an international vice president position, you had to have served on the JCI USA board of directors at least 1 year, aka be a state president. And then to run for national vice president for JCI USA, you had to have been similarly on the board of directors for 1 year. But to run for deputy national president, you had to serve at least 2 years on the JCI USA board of directors. So one could have been the state presidency year, and maybe you served another year as state president. That technically does qualify to allow you to run. But traditionally, it's someone that served as state president and then national vice president at some point after that, and then they decide to run for deputy national president.
Yep. And I will put a big caveat here too, right? And I'm probably I say this a lot in terms of my own journey. A lot of times leadership development is not a straight line. And so you can bounce between different levels. It's more of like a continuum than even a ladder up. And sometimes you take a step back, not because it's really a step back, but because maybe a different level of the organization needs you, or you have a certain skill set that's going to fill there better, right? No matter what, each role that you take gives you learning, gives you growth that can be part of your success at a future one. I served on the international level before I was a state president. And I only served on a national level once I was a state president. And after all of that, I had served internationally twice and on the state level. I served on the state level in one of the top leadership roles before I was ever a chapter president, right? My journey looks like this. Each one of your journey is going to be unique. And that's kind of why we're trying to give you an overview of here's your menu of options, right? And what you do with that, it's a little bit of a chart your own adventure course. But again, we want you to know what's available to you. Josh, we can kind of skip sort of this one because I think each one of you has a different state organization. This is one where I will say consult your bylaws. We at Michigan get made fun of because our board of directors has 30 people on it. And so in various different levels, and in some cases are bigger than the US board in some cases. So each one of these is going to be unique, but just by looking at the slide, again, you can kind of see how boards of directors at the state mimic boards of directors at other levels. Like for example, Michigan does not have an EVP, but we have two chief roles, our chief operations officer and our chief of staff, which is the EVP roles and responsibilities split in two. So each one of your states is going to be a little bit unique, but you can see there's a state president, there's a vice, and then there are directors of some sort, some administrative roles, and probably committees, right? Cool. Then we will jump to the next section here as to why leadership matters. So now you kind of have this idea of the roles and officer duties, kind of a big idea, right, of what the organization is. Let's talk about why you'd want to step into one of those leadership roles. So, Josh, I can turn this over to you here too, if you want to talk. I think it's important for them to hear sort of your philosophy, your experiences as, you know, moving up to national president. What kind of drove you to wanting to step into leadership roles?
Yeah. So I think for me, when I first started running, I think it was one of those things that like I saw there was a gap in what I saw happening and what was actually needed in the organization, right? And based on my own personal experiences during my time as, a regular member, also as taking on, chapter presidency, my professional experiences as well. Kind of, I saw that at a national leadership and I was like, I could really make an impact here. And I was thinking about the members, or when I stepped in, all the things that I thought about that I was like, that should just be a default item that happens that we get from JCI USA as a chapter member. And in some cases, unfortunately, it wasn't, right? And that's what I wanted to change, right? I wanted to see the change in the organization so that the next generation of JCs and JCI members coming up had it 10 times better than me, and their impact was going to be so much greater than me because of all of the systems and the things that we put in place for them to just benefit from right out of the gate. I think at a certain point, it obviously takes an ego of yourself to basically say like, hey, I'm better than other people that are in these roles now. But I think that's okay. Like, if you have the ideas, you have the passion for these things, it's okay to sometimes step forward and have that ego amongst yourself where you're like, I am the right person for this role, especially during contested races. That's one thing that I feel is healthy for the organization, are contested races. I ran a contested race when I was a national vice president, and I ran a contested race as a deputy national president. Luckily, knock on wood, no one had come and decided to run against me last year for national president. Otherwise, that would have been interesting. But so I'm a big fan of it. It brings out the best in candidates and leaders when you have contested races. But again, like I was saying, you are saying that you were the person that's going to take on those all those decisions, and you're willing to take that on, and you have the ideas, or you have the ability to build a team around you to bring those good ideas together that are going to make and push this organization forward, looping right back to that mission and vision. Because if you're not going to continue that in your leadership journey, just stop. Don't run for a position. Like, if you're not having those things front of mind anymore. So those are like a couple of the reasons why like I decided to run and continued pushing forward in the organization. And even now, like, my experience as national president, seeing what they're offering at an international level or lack thereof, is some of my passion for wanting to go forward and serve on a committee next year, or potentially chair a committee for JCI next year. So that's a little bit of what I had. Michelle, I'm sure you got other additional perspectives to add here too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh is 100% right. For me, it was a little bit of, at first, it was about fixing something that I saw, right? Whether it was a pain point or something that could be done differently, or something that was definitely important thing. In many cases, I'll be honest, a lot of my appointments or roles until I ran for state president was appointed. So somebody coming to me and saying, hey, you have this skill set, we really need it, or, just through conversations. I mean, the number of people on this call that we have conversations in the hallway or sidebar about, oh my gosh, we could do this differently, or what if we did this, or anything like that, that led to people asking me to take certain roles, but it also led to me doing things even outside of necessarily a role, right? I followed the training pathway more so than an elected pathway until the last couple of years. But then it kind of transitioned. And for me, some of those appointed roles gave me opportunities that I would have never had. I can honestly say being a member of the JCs changed my life. I've said it before. I grew up in a small town, first one in my family to go to college. Like, your idea of a vacation was going up north to grandma's house. And because of JCI, I've traveled around the world. And that was something that was for other people. That wasn't for me. And it wasn't for people like me. And this really opened doors. And the fact that it opened doors for me, I wanted others to experience that too. And so for me, it really became, how do I create opportunities for other people? Whether that's, maybe it's not an opportunity you want to take advantage of, but it's not going to be an opportunity that you can't because you didn't know about it, or you weren't introduced to the person that could open that door for you, or take advantage, or, introduce you to conversation or something like that. And so that really became my mission there. was providing opportunities for others, because I really do feel that growth and leadership development is important. Whether you have a professional career, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, whether you're a caregiver for someone else, right? The skills here are transferable to almost any facet of life. And if we can introduce people to that and make that available to them, well, then it raises their opportunity even outside of the organization. And so that's really where my heart lied here. But again, it's also at a certain point, I want to bring this up too, is this here is it's also a responsibility, right? You know, we talk about many cases like, you know, especially when we're trying to convince somebody to take a new role, right? Like, it's going to be awesome. You're going to be so great. And you're going to do this. And we're going to talk about only the shiny objects over here. But being a leader comes with obligation. It comes with responsibility. Like, you know, we talk about how JCI is a safe space to fail, and it is to an extent, right? Like there's failure because, you know, something unexpected went wrong, but there's also like you have to take it seriously, right? Whether or not we talk about it here, when you take a leadership role, you are on the board of directors of a not-for-profit organization that has legal rights and responsibilities. You are on legal filings. There are laws that are part of that. And so, yes, it's a safe space to fail if you have a project and no one shows up. It's a safe place to like wear a new hat, and maybe you're not, you know, you're a membership development director and you're not at growth. Okay, that's not the end of the world. But when it comes to things like budgets, to the way that we enforce bylaws, these have legal responsibilities. When you make a decision, when you cast a vote in a leadership role, that's real. Like, decisions happen and consequences come from that. That shouldn't scare you, but it should be something that you take seriously, that you're reading the information, that you show up prepared to a board meeting or something like that, because the only way that you access those growth opportunities is by fulfilling your role fully. It's not about a name badge. It's not about your picture on a website, right? It's about all the parts of what it means to be a leader. And I can guarantee if you do those things, the person in December is going to know a lot more than this person in January when you start it, right?
And to that end, like I've heard people in leadership roles within different states, JCI USA, what have you, they've always said, well, when you take a leadership role, it's about giving back. It's not about learning yourself. I told my entire board of directors, my executive committee this year, if you were sitting in a role in January and by December, you've told me you've learned nothing, something wrong happened throughout the year. Whether it was a higher up leader failed you, whether you failed yourself, because to Michelle's point, you didn't take the opportunity of the growth opportunities, you should be learning something every time. I know I saw Morgan laughing because I was assigned to Morgan as a state president, and like she thought, you know, coming from North Carolina, like, oh, this is good old Delaware boy ain't gonna teach me nothing. But like throughout the course of the year, like there's learning that happens in every single role. You were a pleasure at times. So others it was challenging, but that's okay because that's part of the growth opportunity. Like all of these times aren't going to be fun. It's gonna be stressful at times. There's gonna be moments where it's tough. You've got like 4 meetings lined up in one week, but then other weeks, you know, maybe you have the fun meetings lined up where you're, you know, having one-on-ones with people that you're working on a committee about something you really engage with, and those are the pieces of JCI that really give you that energy, and that's the part that fills your cup.
Yep. It should be mutually beneficial, right? Because to Josh's points, there are going to be weeks that suck. There are going to be days where you're like, why did I sign up for this? It's a volunteer. Not getting paid for this, right? But there are parts that are so rewarding, and the growth that you get, that it makes the hard days worth it. And you're growing yourself, you're learning stuff, but you're also providing opportunities or growth for other people. And that is why leadership really matters, is you're providing service to the organization, but you're getting something back as well. And if you think that you have an idea, an innovation, or something that's going to make this organization better for yourself and for its members, then That's the type of leader that we're looking for at all levels of JCI. Morgan looked at the chat. Before we jump to the next slide here, I'm also going to open it up for questions or discussions, because I know the overview of roles and responsibilities was just that kind of an overview, but this is sort of where we're getting into the meat of the session of what it means to be a leader. Are there any questions? Anything anybody wants to add here?
I have something to add. Also, when you're thinking about taking on leadership roles, it's important to not say yes to too many things. And so like I noticed a lot of people said, I'm this position in my chapter and then this position in the state and then I'm on this national committee. You're gonna burn yourself out really fast, and it's better. We've been saying this in Michigan. Why whole ass or half ass multiple things when you can whole ass one thing? And really you're doing a disservice to the organization, I truly feel, when you're taking on X, Y, and Z roles. I mean, sometimes you have to. I come from a really small chapter, and I was chapter president and treasurer and secretary because it was COVID. Um, so I understand it. However, it's not when you do that kind of thing, when you have a position at every single level congruently, you're also not letting other people get the chance to grow in those positions. So that's something to really think about, especially as you're looking at your own trajectory, of, okay, is my chapter going to survive without me serving on the role? Um, or is like, do I need to hold myself here for a second to make sure that the chapter is surviving before I pursue higher roles? I did that. I was asked to serve on the state board, and I said, I'm going to be chapter president again. I want to make sure that my chapter is in a good place before I shift my focus, because I'm not going to be able to give it as much as it needs.
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, uh, joke, thank you, Parks and Rec, for using the most often quoted thing here, but it's 100% true, right? And you said it's a disservice to the organization, but I also want to point out it's a disservice to yourself as well, right? You're not getting that full experience if you're so overwhelmed by anything. Now, that's not to say that you may not hold two roles at the same time, but look at what the time commitments to those things are, right? Like I named 3 different roles that I'm in, but 2 of them are in training. So I'm doing the same thing. I just wear 2 name badges that's the same tasks. And another one that's mentoring and advisory. That is a completely different time commitment than national vice president or leadership development director or chapter president, or God forsake, national president, right? You have to understand your own capacity, and you have to understand the roles and the obligations with that role. And that kind of points to what Jimmy's saying here in the chat, right? Like sometimes you learn your capacity by biting off too much that you can chew. But I hope that when that happens, right, that is a learning opportunity, and you start to get a little bit more self-awareness of where your capacity is. And that kind of goes back to it's a safe place to fail, right? There may be a year that like that's your learning. You took on way too much, right? But it's what you do from that the year on. And leadership is being part of a team too. And so figuring out how those all work together, we'll talk in a later session about building a team, and what that looks like, both as a candidate and as a role. Once you get a role, that becomes really important when we start having capacity discussions.
I think one thing too that we don't mean to scare everyone off of like this is some big massive thing that you need to like. I think one thing we fall in a trap of, and we have the past couple years, and we've been trying to change this narrative of like this is a job and stuff. it's not at the end of the day. Like, right, like no one here, sorry, except for Cassie, is getting paid to do this stuff we do within the JCs, right? We're doing it to like do better things for our community, do better things for ourselves. Like that's what we need to remember. And like there has to be some fun element to it, right? Like there has to be times that it is enjoyable, it is fun, you genuinely are having a good time because what happens is when you get so tied up into this and like you get so tightly wound and you're like white knuckling your JCI journey that like you get so burnt out and then you go off of the highway.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like to Josh's point, every conversation feels like it's all fun and games and nothing is serious. And then the other time it's like it's scary. It's going to be a second job. You're going to have no free time. Hope you didn't want to eat this week because you're not going to be able to sit down and have dinner, right? The real truth is it's somewhere in the middle. And there may be a day where you just have back-to-back meetings, but then there are other days where it's a life-changing, super fun experience. You're meeting people from all over the country, the world. And those good days are what makes the bad days bearable. And most of the time, there are more good days than bad. It's also serious. It's also a responsibility. And so, yeah, Ashley, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Make it fun and enjoy the journey. Right. And when it stops becoming fun is when you really need to question where you're at and sort of where your values are and what's in it for you. And that is a beautiful segue into the next section where we're going to discuss why do you want to be a leader? Right. And this is a personal kind of discussion. There's no right or wrong answer here. And so these are some things to kind of think about here. We've created sort of a self-assessment, and we'll send these slides out, right? But some questions to really kind of think about. And you can write them down, you can write answers to yourself, but think about them as you consider a next role over the next couple of weeks. Why do you want to be a leader? Is it for impact? Is it for recognition? Is it to help others succeed? Like you heard Josh and I both talk about kind of what brought us and kind of energized us into maybe considering a different role. They were two different answers. They were related, but they weren't the same. And there's no right or wrong answer here. But the more that you understand your motivations and why this even seemed attractive in the first place, it's going to help you center yourself and kind of be like, is this the right fit for where I'm at right now? So kind of think through what are you in for? Is it ambition? Is it service to others? Is it a mix of all of them, right? The next one is, do you want to empower others, right? Is this more about personal growth or is it more about growing the people around you? I'll be the first to admit that this answer changed for me as I went through the organization, and it probably will for you too. But where are you now? Because there are certain roles that are far more focused on individual growth, and then there are other roles that are far more focused on service to others. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. But if you don't know where you fall on that continuum, you may find a role that drains you more than it energizes you. And that's when it no longer becomes something you love and it becomes a second job in which you are woefully underpaid and in fact costs you money most of the time, right? So you gotta know where you're at. You also need to know, are you interested in driving change, right? Do you want to take a proactive role in some of that? Or are you more interested in being sort of, this sounds bad, but I don't mean it this way, it's like a worker bee, right? Like it takes all types. So team can't function without both. But again, there are some roles here that are 100% in driving decisions in innovation. And then there are some that execute those innovations or changes, right? And so it's a fit question. You need to ask yourself, are you prepared for the responsibility? And this kind of goes back again, this shouldn't be scary, but this is a volunteer organization. It happens after work time. It does take time away from family, whether it's traveling to a conference or taking meetings. Are you willing to, when you get sent an agenda for a board meeting and it has attachments, are you willing to read the proposals or go to the bylaws and look for an answer, right? Like there's self preparation and self responsibility that comes in your role as well as board responsibility. And knowing where you're at on that will help you determine, what level of leadership or what level of role that you're looking for.
Michelle, just jumping in there at
Yeah.
one point too, that I feel is super important for anyone that is in a relationship, has a family, has a very close friend group that you hang out with all the time, or close family group. Have an actual conversation with people before you run for a role, before you do anything. Have a sit down conversation. This is what it looks like. This is how many hours a week I'm probably going to be busy with stuff. Here's what my travel schedule will look like. If you don't do that and you tend to run for, at the very minimum, state president, you're going to have a bad time and personal relationships are going to be hurt in that process. So make sure you have that conversation.
And I know many of you on this call, and I know that many of you have significant others, and the way in which they provide support is unique to them as well, right? But it's that setting of expectations beforehand. Like many of you, my husband, you don't see all the time at conferences because we talk about it, and in many cases he's at home watching the dogs so that I have the ability and flexibility to travel and go to these conferences. Sometimes he'll go and support me depending on what the conference is. Others, like I know Jake, you're on here with Jess. Jake is always there supporting. He jokes about being a production assistant, but Jake's always there, right? It's his role, the way in which he supports may look a little bit different. Scott and Morgan, Josh and Brittany, like all of us, I can look and say, right, that they make as many sacrifices without the name badge. And if you don't have that conversation, it becomes a second strain, honestly. So make sure that that's part of that preparation for the responsibility. That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Josh.
Absolutely.
The other thing here is you need to ask yourself is that can you make tough decisions when they are unpopular? And this is an important one because it's really easy for us to say yes, right? Oh, mayor, MVP, plan and wedding. Yes, 100%. Hard conversation. Like everybody adding in their relationship situations in the chat, right? But going back to this one, it's very easy to say that you're able to make tough decisions. Like, of course I can, until they're looking at you when you have to have it. And sometimes it's easier, I would say, to make tough decisions when you're not like as good of friends. But when you have to make a decision that your friend is is going to be upset about, that can be very, very difficult. But it's something that you have to do, right? You have to be able to set aside your feelings on a question and go make the decision that's best for the organization.
And I'll say on that too, like if you know about yourself that you're not good with conflict management, pause before you run for a position, take some trainings, take some time to do some individual development to increase your skills at conflict management.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can I say something on this one too?
Of course.
Like Michelle was saying, like sometimes it is hard to disagree with people that you consider your friends. And a lot of the times we talk about understanding what hat you're wearing when you show up in that room, right? Is this a BOD meeting nationally, or is this a, national membership meeting, right? Our General Assembly. Are you there to represent your state as a whole, or do you get, half plus one of your delegate votes and your voice also gets to be heard, right? And every state is different in how they caucus and do all of that. But also being able to set those boundaries with your friends, right? We make tough decisions a lot in all areas, but I know, like, I served as a state president with Michelle. Did we agree on everything? Absolutely not. No, we did not. Josh and I most recently disagreed like 6 months ago on a vote, and it's not the end of the world either, but I spoke for the people I had talked to and the members I felt I was representing, and that's my job, right? Because I was elected into the position that I served. And so at the end of the day, it is your job to understand the hat and the responsibility that comes with it and who you're representing, but also that you can still be friends with people and disagree with them on some of these things, and you don't have to be disrespectful at the same time. It's a whole thing. It's really cool.
Yep. Courtney, I see your hand.
I'll also share just professionally, even though people are your friends and you've had those relationships and it's amazing, when you take on a responsibility, you wear that title, even if you think you're just Courtney, you're just Josh, I'm just Morgan. It's important to kind of think about that. Not that I've necessarily run into challenges. I've had friends and colleagues that they get to that executive level and they're joking and it's wonderful, but they don't realize that they also carry that title with them, even if they're not in that official capacity. So just being mindful, you might not be wearing that hat right now, but it's still with you. But I think these are all really great examples of how they kind of think about leadership.
And sometimes it's not even a vote. I know as state president, one of the very first challenges that I had is I had to appoint somebody to a committee that was very controversial. And to be honest, I personally did not have a great relationship with this person, but I had to set aside my personal feelings and say, is this person good in that particular role? And so made an appointment, knew that I was going to eat it on the backside from people that I were friends and I respect, right? And it can be difficult to stand up there and do it, even micro decisions, not just votes. Not even flip side, but alongside that is when you are in a leadership role, you are part of a bigger team. And there will be times that you disagree with your team and you lose the majority vote. Are you able to disagree and commit? Can you, as Morgan and Josh, have that discussion, disagree, and then when the decision comes down, follow what the team went for, whether that's your personal feelings or not? Right. And that sometimes can be harder than making a personal tough decision because you're following something maybe you didn't necessarily believe in, but that's part of leadership. It's part of being the leadership team. And that doesn't mean that you go along with it for that meeting and then you walk out and talk about it, right? You need to ask yourself, where are you on the ability to do that? And is that something that you need to do some soul searching and figure out how to be okay with that? Because it's going to come up. The next one is looking at what your leadership style is. And there are 1.5 billion leadership styles. They are as unique as the individual who has them. This is your own fingerprint. But this is a question of more of taking a hard look at yourself. What are your values? How do you approach leadership? How do you interact with other people? How do you display your values? How do you behave within your values? And are you able to adapt that to somebody whose values or leadership style may be different? And that's not even on the team level. That can also be the people who are on the team that you lead, right? It's not, when a leader, it's not okay to say, well, that's just how I am, right? You have to be able to try to meet someone in the middle to an extent, right? And so finding out what that extent is and what contexts you can be adaptable and what times you have to sit and stick strong to like where you're at on your value system there's no right answer, right? There's no final answer. Part of growth is you're going to learn more about yourself, but having that self-reflection before you even put your name in the hat can help you center yourself, I guess, right? Into what kind of candidate are you going to be? What kind of leader are you going to be? And that's going to come through in your campaign. It's going to come through in your messaging, and it's going to come into the way that you lead, whether you get the role or not.
I think another thing on
go
this
ahead.
one too
Yep.
is like when you do those assessments with your team, whether it's a DISC assessment, whether it's Clifton Strength Finder, what have you, there's 1.5 million like assessments out there. Don't just like take them and think they're BS and move on, because at the heart of every one, you are learning about who the members of the team kind of are as a person. Take that to heart, remember it, like literally write it down, keep a spreadsheet, because I've done it throughout my leadership journey of like remembering what type of person they are and reminding myself how to interact with them best or not. Thank you, Morgan. I wasn't going to shamelessly plug it, but you did in the chat, so I appreciate that. I think we did lose your screen, Michelle, by the way.
I was going to say, it's like, oh, Canva, being very Canva-ish.
We're back
there
now.
we go. Perfect. I tried to move the participant, the little thing, and you'd think I'd never used Zoom in my entire life. Okay. What are you doing, Canva? Okay, I can't look at you guys anymore. Sorry, I messed it up. So the last thing here is to kind of look at, again, a self-examination of what you've learned from your previous successes and failures. Leadership is a journey. We talked about this, that every role that you take, you are taking what you learned from roles previously, and you're bringing that in, both good and bad. And so this is kind of asking yourself, like, for I don't want to say reckoning, but like, what are the things that you wish you had done differently? Where were failures that you can say, okay, I've learned from that. I'm not going to take it, or I'm not going to do that again. Or a recognition of like, are you carrying baggage from a failure before into this? In the same way, what did you learn from your successes? How do you replicate those successes? And of kind of understanding of, is a previous success going to matter in the role that you have here, right? Like, what core pieces are going to carry, because each role is a little different, and you're going to experience different environments, different situations, and some of those things will be help you, and some of them you need to make sure that they don't hinder you, right? So again, this is a self-assessment. I'll send these slides out to you all, but at the same time, like, these are just some things to ponder as we move forward and you move forward in your leadership journey. So where are we on time? 9:15. I think this is the last thing here too. And I would like to stop and like have you all kind of talk for a second. And so I'm going to stop sharing because apparently I can't look at you and share at the same time. I want y'all to just think about it for a second, and we'll take volunteers. Not everyone has to do it, but I would encourage you that when we get off this call, that you do it just for yourself, whether it's a note on your phone, a scratch piece of paper or something, and maybe you refine it over the next 2 weeks. But I'm going to take some volunteers here. Go ahead and raise your hand. Take like 1 or 2 minutes to share what you believe your personal leadership statement is. Who are you as a leader, and how can you bring that to the organization? Does everybody understand? Cool.
Can share.
Okay.
So I've kind of done some different work on this, still reflecting and things. But what I always come back to is that I am a connector. So I try to be a connector of people, resources, and ideas to make an impact on my region and my people. So in the work that I do, I work in development and foundation work and community work. So that applies directly to my work in Western Maryland and Appalachia. But for me within JCI, I'm learning to figure out what that looks like. On the state side, it's rebuilding our board and kind of connecting across the state, developing communication things. Not sure what it looks like beyond that, but I think these courses will be helpful to kind of flesh that out some more.
That's wonderful. Thank you for, especially for volunteering to go first. Anyone else got one that they want to share? Go ahead, DeMarcus. I see your hand.
I feel like as a leader, I'm more of a pillar of support for my team. Like it's how I led, whether it's in the JCs or at my own jobs. Because I believe at the core of my leadership style, it's my job to help my team reach their goals and become versions of themselves that they had no idea that they could even be. Because that's what somebody did for me. So I feel like it's my duty to pass along that same feeling to them.
Awesome. Thank you, DeMarcus. Brandon, I see your hand.
Yeah, I think that personally for me, my leadership style or what I bring to the organization is I'm a visionary. So I think of things very creatively and I look outside of the box. I think we're all business people in different ways, and I think that sometimes we don't get that ability to be creative as adults, and I kind of challenge that thinking and challenge the way things have always been done with a fresh perspective.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll share.
Okay. We'll do Ashley and then Brielle. I also saw you unmute. So we'll do Ashley and then Brielle.
Okay, the leadership with connecting, doing Mary Kay and schooling and membership and all, showing up for your team, showing up for your friends and people, not just on the business level, but checking in on them. Everybody has their seasons. Just making sure everybody feels welcome and heard. And it could be that simple. Hey, how you doing? Is there anything I can help support you? I like challenging people or just giving me like, hey, what are your personal goals? Like, what can I help be there and support you or be accountable of, hey, did you get your run in today? Hey, did you get your pouching? Just some little things of being there for each other, which leads into giving people opportunities and second chances because I've been through it where I was like, wow, I put a lot of things on my plate and I didn't hold myself up to the standards I would like, So being able to set them boundaries, but give people opportunities, and that's what I love JCI is you never fail. It's always a lesson learned. Like, oh, wow, I pushed myself a little too hard, or maybe I need to hold myself a little bit more accountable. So that's just my leadership. And that's what I've learned is just giving that phone call to that somebody. I have a personal team member in Ludington. She's going through breast cancer, just reaching out. I'm going to sit with her at her chemo on Wednesday just to be there to support her. I know she can't be so involved, but just giving her like, hey, I'm here for you, not just on a JCI level, but on a friendship level because I care.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. Brielle?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, we're good. I'm definitely a people person, a connector. I have like three definitely top words that I use for my leadership. I like to say authentic, transparency, and definitely accountable. So those are the things that my chapter has trusted me in, and even in my own job. So like accountability, not only for other individuals, but for myself. You know, if I'm not able to hold myself accountable, then I'm not able to hold other individuals accountable. So definitely a builder. I enjoy seeing other individuals succeed, and I help them find their path, maybe something that they're not necessarily seeing in themselves. Just a quick little snippet of an example. I have a recruiter at heart. I have an individual that came up to me, and he was almost aging out of his job title. He was working outside in the snow, and he was getting older, and he was unable to do that. And he's like, oh, I want to do a desk job like for security or something. And he's like, but I don't have any experience in that. But just being able to take his experience in, whether it's JC's or whether it's volunteering at a fire company and saying, oh, well, you've secured scenes and you've ran raffles and secured money. Like being able to show them, like, yes, you are able to do this. You just don't see that in yourself. That's just the type of individual that I am naturally. And I find it helps me in my leadership.
That's wonderful.
Michelle, me.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think like really who I am is like, and I'm a big Gallup Strength Finder girly. So my top two is focus and woo. Woo is, if you guys are not aware, it's one of the least common Gallup Strength Finders that people have in their top five. It's for winning others over. My favorite thing is like, and I am just like a super fan for recognition. Like I love it. I love when people are like, Madison's your go-to girl. She can get it done. Like if you need support, she's there for you. Like I love being people's like go-to, which also can be exhausting. So, you know, knowing how to say no to things. But on the flip side, I also like really love when other people feel like they're doing what they need, that they're doing what they got to do. Um, and I'm a chapter advisor for my sorority. I've been a chapter advisor for 5 years. So I deal with a lot of 18 to 22-year-olds, and I actually pay for my president that I advise every year to do the Gallup Strength Finder test so that she knows what her strengths are going into her first, like really strong leadership position so she can get what she wants out of it as well. Um, and I know Michelle and I have talked a lot about different stuff. So I'm like big on enabling people to get uncomfortable for the sake of growth. So I would say I'm definitely more of a leader that pushes people. And I think over the last 5 years of being an advisor, you know, really stepping back and doing more of an advising and coaching sort of leader. And honestly letting these kids just like screw up, because the worst thing that's going to happen is really not going to probably matter in a year. And that's what I try to tell them. So, you know, just really giving them the space to, yeah, mess up and learn from their mistakes. And that's really what I love to hear from all of you guys today about, you know, having the freedom to like screw up sometimes, because honestly, unless you really, really screw up, it probably is going to be fine. And just keeping them at like that level. I think like that's really what my core like leadership style is.
That's always my litmus test. Are you going to burn the place down? If not, leave some space. Let them figure it out.
Unless there's sirens, blood, or crying, you don't need to call me. And the crying is very low on the list because it's 80 girls. I mean, there's a lot of crying.
Funny enough, that's what my mom used to say when I'd want to tattle on my brother. But I'm also going to read what Christy put it in the chat because she can't unmute. But she says that she's the type of leader who works hard behind the scenes to support members and events. Like it was said earlier, leadership can have a hard side to it, whether as a member, local president, or state board member. Strive to help members reach their potential and create positive change. She sees herself as a rock that helps hold the team together and strive for more, which I think is great as well. Anyone else? Okay. So what I want to point out and why I think it was important to do this exercise here as well is, as you've heard, each answer was different. However, you can see that there are also like some people like Ashley are very people focus, that one-on-one connection, versus others who want to bring people together. Some that are more visionary and are looking at innovation and looking at the organization as a whole. There are people who are more structural, who are like, how can I create systems that are going to provide opportunities for development for other people? How do I make things more efficient and work better so that we can focus on impact and not on the how to? We see people who are more in the background, that are like the rocks, that are making sure that that the events have the support that they need, that programs have the support that needs, and that members are there as well, right? There is a spot for each and every one of you. And there's each role, as you take it, you're going to approach that role taking this individual piece to it. Josh is a completely different national president than Bethany was our last national president, or Vanessa before that, right? Like, you bring yourself to that role. Each brings something that changes the way the organization functions, and there's no right and wrong answer. For everybody in Michigan, joking, Kaylee and I were very different presidents back to back, but we each brought something unique to the organization that maybe it needed at that particular time. So when you're talking about candidacy, take a look at the roles that you're pursuing and what that individual that you're going to your individual leadership style and you as an individual are going to bring to that role. Your uniqueness makes the organization stronger. But it's also, when we start going into your platform and your messaging and what it means to be a candidate there, understanding what you and what you're bringing to the role into the organization becomes the foundation for all of those other pieces. It also is going to be the foundation of when you're examining what role to pursue. Is this something that's going to energize you, or is this something that's going to exhaust you? And that really comes into that play of like, is it going to be more work than fun? It needs to be both. It needs to be mutually beneficial. So that's why we really called this session the foundations, right? It's both the foundations and overview of the organization and roles within it, that sort of overview, but it's also the foundation of yourself and your foundation of your leadership that you're bringing to the table as a candidate. So I hope that you take some of these things. We had these important discussions here, and really think about it. So I'm not going to bring the presentation up because we are actually at the last slide where it just is opening for questions and answers. So first of all, before we open the door, I'm going to say thank you to National President Josh for being here. You can give him a round of applause. He got back from Antigua yesterday from a conference and decided to join us for an hour and a half this evening. And we really appreciate you doing that. And thank all of you for being on here. That being said, now it's just open discussion. This is time to ask questions, to have conversations. Josh is here as a resource. You can see that there are people on this call that have held leadership roles at all levels of this organization. There are no stupid questions. This is for you and to better prepare you. So if you need to run, we are done with content. You're free to do that. But I think the questions and answer and discussion could be really valuable for anybody who does want to stay. So for now, I'm going to shut up. Feel free to unmute, ask questions, and thank you again. Any questions? DeMarcus?
All right, so I'm kind of taking it way back to what past President Kaylee said about not saying yes to a lot of things. So I'm the type of person who does a lot of things in the JCs because it fills my cup, it energizes me. Like, I will collect duties like they're freaking infinity stones. What, like, if you were to come across someone who's like the exact opposite of that, like, how do you encourage them for leadership without like intimidating them?
Josh, I'll let you take first swing if you want.
Yeah, I think it's finding the right role for that person. I think it's really evaluating who they are, where you think that they can go, even if they may not see it in themselves yet, especially at the local level, right? And finding the opportunity for them and fully explaining and unpacking for them why you think you really need their help and their support in a said role. Because sometimes with people like that, that's what you need. You need to approach them, and I've been guilty of it too, even at the national level, where I've approached people and said like, hey, I need you to do this, no one else has stepped up to do it, or we just really need some extra focus here, or whatever it is. Even at times like making up or declaring a new role for that individual, for what you need them to do. But I think that's the piece for me that I've had success in the past of doing, is really looking and evaluating strategically for that person who you think they are, and then finding a role that will be perfect for them, not just throwing them a role that they feel like is a throwaway role, but like, hey, I have a plan and there's a specific reason I need you in this role.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Yep.
Anybody else have something they want to say to that? This is like open discussion for anybody.
Arby threw one in the chat. He said, is there a template or blueprint to activate local members beyond the chapter level? Have them go to events. Have
Yeah.
them go to a state event. Have them go to a national event. Hell, this past week, have a member go to an international event. There was someone who attended a Conference of America that said, forget the international organization. I don't need it. JCI USA is the best thing ever. They went to Conference of America and they said, well, now I'm getting involved in the international organization.
And I said, and I was right. Ha 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 ha.
Me too.
Also, there kind of is sort of a blueprint because Passport does have some aspects of go to a national event, go beyond your chapter level. So there's serve in a state role, lead a state training, that kind of thing is built into Passport.
Yeah. Yep. And my answer kind of goes to all of this, to DeMarcus and to Arby, to your question here, is the first thing I would ask is why? What are they scared of? Are they scared of responsibility? Are they scared of the work? Are they scared that they aren't going to be good at it? Are they scared of it because it's just new, right? Or is the issue that they just don't know, right? And I think that depending on the why question is really what kind of leads you to that next step. Is it, saying, I have faith in you and I know that you can do it? Is it pairing them up so that they're more comfortable and they build confidence? Is it a question they don't know how to do the next step, or that, that's Passport where it's a guided template, right? Like you push the buttons and follow it through. The answer is going to be as different depending on who it is. But sometimes, to Josh's last point here, and I've experienced this too, is you can, for some of them, you can tell them till you're blue in the face, but they have to experience it. You have to show them. And just because it's not the first time you ask and they say no, that doesn't mean don't ask again, right? Like I told you that I didn't run for elected roles. Everything was appointed, because in many cases, I was just like, I'm not the right person. Someone else should do this. Like somebody else is better at it or is more competent. Or maybe it was just a question of like, I felt like I was taking up space that should have been for someone else. And it became a question of being asked. I mean, two of them, I got positions against my will, right? So I don't necessarily suggest that. However, right, it's going to be different based on the person. We're going to see you.
Yeah, sorry. Click unmute a lot. On the other side of that coin, maybe they're not getting involved because they know themselves well enough to know they don't have the capacity to do it, right? Or maybe there is someone on this call, I'm not going to call their name out, but I remember sitting as an MVP and on my calls with the state presidents, I was talking, and We were talking about how there was one of the state leaders was like, there is this one member and they only come out to this event. I want members that come out to all of these things, right? I don't want just one person. And one of the other state leaders on the call stepped up and said, I was that person for years that just wanted to do that one event, right? And I kept coming, and now they've advanced in leadership. And I think it's important to note that who knows what people have going on, right? Maybe they do know their capacity a little better. So, like Michelle said, understanding the why, like, why are we not? Are we scared? Do we need encouragement? Or are we really just not in a place to be able to take on that mantle of responsibility, right? Or the time commitment that it's going to be. And we just want to show up to that one event. Keep showing up. We love it. We'll take it.
And I think the answer does change year to year too. Maybe this time it's not right for them, but don't ask them again next year. I took a whole year off because I was planning my wedding. And to be honest, I had no money to go to conferences or anything. And so for a year, I was like, I'd go to local stuff, but I was not as active at all the other levels. It was a capacity issue. It wasn't a desire issue. Right. And so the next year, somebody else asked me and I came back. I'm going to jump to Christy's question in the chat here about what is advice to get started in moving into positions of the organization, like having a desire to be more involved in stepping roles, but being new and not really knowing. For me, my suggestion would be is going to things and talking to people, honestly. The wonderful thing about this organization is the people that you meet, and so many opportunities came to me, and I found out things by going to stuff and meeting people and having conversations with them, right? And so if you are just interested in exploring, go to a conference. Going to things like this on Zoom, right? Like going to trainings. Going to trainings is where I meet and have conversations with so many people. And that actually led to different roles. Depending on where you're at, it could be just a question of throwing your name in the hat and seeing what happens, right? But if it's something that you're more wanting to like baby steps, right? Those are usually committees or program chairs, and those are appointed roles. That's just meeting somebody and saying, hey, I'm interested.
And 90% of the time, both on the state, the national, and the international stage, if you have someone coming to you and they're like, hey, I just want to learn more, get involved and stuff, they're like, thank God, we love to hear that. You're on a committee immediately.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, like as primary advisor, that's one of the main things that I tell JCI Michigan members is like, come have a conversation if you're just interested. Because there are so many times that like Morgan and I will be talking and she's like, man, so-and-so asked me for a training on this topic and I don't know. And I say, I have 3 members who have expressed interest in training. Let me get you into contact with them and you can find out what topics they have, right? The more conversations that you have and the more people that you've expressed interest to, these conversations happen and they can connect you, right? Josh and I can have a conversation where he's like, I'm looking, I have all these committee places to fill. And I say, oh, I talked to so-and-so and they were interested. Like they're into membership. You should hit them up, right?
Or even
Sometimes
internationally this year, because don't forget, we have Executive Vice President Jaquita Clark Thompson from Virginia on the international level. We have Nikki Shaw from Iowa, who is the General Legal Counsel for JCI. So, like, there's ways that we can get you in these pockets, even of the international organization. If you didn't think that was an opportunity, it definitely is.
right. And sometimes it's
Also,
easier to have
shameless
a
plug.
conversation. Yeah.
There's 2 committees that I oversee that I'm looking for members for.
Right. And sometimes it's easier, right? Like, it seems kind of flippant to say, like, just throw your hat in the ring. I understand that that's not a comfortable thing for everyone. But sometimes it's more comfortable to have a conversation. You're meeting people on this call here, have a one-on-one, and they can be that that bridge, right? Or provide a warm introduction to somebody who may know more about particular roles. Brielle, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I think I did like 5 times.
Sorry.
I would just jump in. No, on that meeting, on that things, it's sometimes they just don't even know, right? Sometimes the information isn't there. Sometimes you're not meeting them where they're at. Over here at a little Upper Adams, in the middle of Pennsylvania. I didn't know, but I did know that there was a larger organization and all of these other things. And what made me step into maybe myself a little bit in JCI were other individuals that made me feel welcome, that made me feel like I had a seat at the table. And that has always been something that I've naturally done. For example, here in Beaver, I was just at one of our chapters that hasn't had a state visitor in quite a while. And they were sitting here having conversations about, oh, we're not having a lot of individuals that are in the young age group and such like that. I went outside and there was a little smokers corner, and there was about 10 people that were between the ages of 22 to 30, not even 30 yet. And just having conversations, and it was like, oh, you guys are JCs. That's what I automatically assumed. And come to find out, they just came for the all you can drink beer and to gamble. They had no idea what a JC was. Um, and we sat there and we talked and we had conversations. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to the membership development person, and they didn't know that they could participate in competitions and not go to conferences because they do have small kids and they're not able to travel. And it's like, okay, you can't travel yet. However, you can still get benefits out of what your membership, offers you. So there's write-up competitions, there's hire me, like I'll get you that information. So like, yeah, there's reasons why we don't do it, but it's finding those reasons around it or those ways around it and giving them the information that they may not have. So I've learned that like they do want to step up and they would be more involved. It's maybe they just don't know how or what capacity they're able to do without traveling to different states.
Yep. And honestly, I think that the organization has become more able to do stuff like that post-COVID, since now so much stuff is on Zoom. Like it used to be that you could only experience trainings by if somebody brought it into your local organization or by traveling. Now you can participate in international training by just signing up for Zoom. And the majority of people
And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been pushing that because that's another thing. They didn't know that those trainings that you spoke about at our Eastern Institute meeting were available. Neither did I. So now it's like, okay, well, you can do this at your own leisure, at your own time. You can sign up and get these courses. So yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. I mean, one of the goals Josh gave us, all of us state presidents, made us do our year plan action, and we all needed measurable goals. And one of my measurable goal is I want to visit each chapter at least twice this year, and I want one person from each chapter to at least come to conference because I do believe being in person and having these conversations, the round tables with people, it fills your cup. It makes you want to do more. So like just getting those experiences and it's just finding a way to make sure that we can make it affordable. So
yeah. Well, and that's where those conversations happen, right? Like that's the thing. Sure, look, I love trainings, right? Don't get me wrong. That was my thing. That is my thing. However, it's also the conversations that happen within the training room or in the chat here, right? And those are where connections and networks are made. And that's honestly, in many cases, where those relationships that I can now trace back to a training room or something. I couldn't even tell you what the topic was at that particular time, but the person I met built a relationship and that led to future opportunity, right? So everything's kind of connected in that way. Crap, that's how I got international roles. Was through conversations.
Ashley? Mine was
Yeah.
simply going to a training and and voicing out a concern. And next thing you know, I had 3 JC individuals saying, hey, let's go to lunch together. We have a free break. And next thing you know, we're having this full blown conversation. And I come back and, my cup is lit and my fire is lit. And yeah, absolutely. It's those conversations that make a difference.
I will say one thing just to add on, because I know Brielle kind of brought it up, talking about like making sure there's finances there. As someone who's going to be a candidate, it's okay to go and ask your Senate foundation, your Senate, your chapters that may have money. Like, don't be afraid to ask people for money because you're doing things for this organization to make it better. You're going to these things to represent your chapter, your state, your country, whatever. It's okay to do that. That's one of the things that I found candidates are very afraid to do, and it really does them a disservice because ultimately, and I'm not on this session, so if you guys are talking about financing and fundraising later, that's fine. But like what you can do is you like set up a separate bank account, fundraise your JCI money, put your JCI money in that bank account, and then after filing fees and things like that to your state or wherever are done, like that can help you extend the travel that you're doing because you're going to hit a point where you've extended or exceeded your travel budget for whatever role you're sitting in. That's where you dig into those other resources that you got from these foundations and things to help expand the impact you're really making. And trust me,
Agreed.
there is a lot of money sitting out there because there was a lot of money raised many years ago that has now been sitting in investment funds for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And going full circle, the more that you can articulate who you are and why you're going for that role, the better chance you have of making a case for why they should give you money to do this, right? They want to spend it for the benefit of the organization. So being able to articulate what you're bringing to the table and how you're going to be a benefit of the organization means that you're better off. Ashley, I saw you on mute. Did you have a question?
So I love that you say you don't know until you know. I love that. I've heard it several times from you. Like I was blessed to be able to go to North America Academy, which led into going to Conference of Americas, which if you're on this call, I recommend everybody go to Conference of Americas. It was a game changer. The international level of connecting with other chapters, not just in JCI USA, was a blessing. And I got the privilege of going there with Josh and having that amazing time. Like, honestly, best time of my life. It marked a lot of things off my bucket list, but I seen the greater picture of the connection, the resources, and support that JCI really has to offer all over the world. We have great support here locally, state by state, USA, but having them connections of, hey, how do you run this event in your chapter? How can I tweak it to bring it back to mine? Them connections last a lifetime. Bobby Joe just went there. She sends me a picture with my Jamaican girl. She's like, she says you were her American soul sister. I was like, oh my gosh, you did find her. She's like, oh yeah, she's got I got some Jamaican things that she wanted to send back to you. Those connections that I made out there, I would have never done if I didn't know. If I wouldn't have had the courage to travel and trusted JCI, I realize no matter where I go in the world, I can count on a JCI chapter, even if I don't know them. First meeting them, they become family. They're here to support me in the resources and the conversations that are had after the trainings. Stu and me from Canada, we were in North America Academy together. And being able to go to Conference of Americas and have our presentation that we did at North America Academy go to the international level of running a training online and just all these little things that are connected. I was like, wow, like that was a really cool moment to see that these little impacts, these little conversations can make a difference in the greater whole.
Yeah. Anyone else? Seeing none. I pretty much say this every time we end a training or a session. I know, at least for me, when I end these things and ask if there are any more or somebody asks if there are any more questions, I don't have any. And then the next day I have 6 things that I wish I had asked. Please know that this is an ongoing conversation. Although we will have another session 2 weeks from today on the 1st at 8 p.m., you don't have to wait till then. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me, to State President Jess, NP Josh, anybody on this call, right? Part of this is the connections that we're making together as individuals, but then also how we can put you in touch with resources. And so if you reach out to me, even if I don't know the answer, I will put you into contact with someone who does. Josh put his information here about his phone number and his email, and he can probably answer more questions than I can or put you into contact with someone else, right? Please, 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 this is for your benefit. I want you to be able to and feel comfortable leveraging the sessions, but then also the people on the sessions to feel more confident, both as a candidate and as a JCI member. Okay. So you will not be bothering anybody, please. And Jess's information is there too. If you have any questions, do not hesitate. And with that, I will say thank you, everyone. And thank you all for they've stayed on as well. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. So awesome. Night, everybody. Thank you.